I never believe women like B Simone. Matter of fact, I look at a lot of women who say they need a God fearing man with a serious side eye. Because this is how I see it. Because normally when you start to talk to them about what they expect from those type of relationships, women want a God fearing man because if he's God fearing, it keeps him in check. But they still want to be able to do what they want to do. And that's what I've been noticing. They want a God fearing man to keep the man in check while you still get to do what the hell while they allow you to
Yeah,
do
I
what
got
the hell
time,
you want to
cuz.
do. And that's why I'm gonna keep it at. So
Sound
don't
like
believe these
Portia.
hyenas when they get out there. All of a sudden, they done found God and gonna get out there and tell you, "Oh, I need a man that's gonna lead me spiritually, and he's good with God and all of that." Because that's some bullshit. Because I ass gonna still like in a couple weeks we're gonna be seeing her represent some of the most ignorant shit right out the back, and we're gonna be like, "What happened to that spiritual side of you?" Then she gonna
Yeah.
get out there and start dressing a certain kind of way. And it's gonna be, oh well, you shouldn't be insecure or something like that. Yeah, but a God fearing man to keep your ass in check. You don't want to be kept in check. You want to be able to do what the fuck you want to do, but you
True
want
that.
God to check his ass.
You said that from
I'm
the
gonna be
Nah,
heart, like you
I'm gonna be
experienced
real.
that.
we did.
Vice
I'm
versa.
gonna be real with Sweeney. That was a bar. Um, most women that say most women that get on these podcasts that are, I can't find this man, I can't find that man. There's tons of great men out here. There's tons of great God fearing men out here. You're not in the right place, like Miss Hagan was talking about, like Ruth was talking about. You're not in the right place to come across these men because that's not actually what you're looking for, like Sweeney's saying. B Simone is always in the club popping bottles with all the other comedians and everybody else that she hangs with, and all of a sudden you haven't come across this type of man because you're not that type of woman. So you are what you attract. You deal with and date who you allow to date you, right? How would you have dated a whole bunch of men who are not the type of man or the type of caliber man that you desire? You should not have allowed them to take space in your life if you weren't getting fed emotionally, spiritually, in a way that you thought that they could have been a husband for you. So that's a waste of your time. That's a bad decision on your part. But instead, in that podcast, it's like she's using it as a platform to speak down about men, but it's the men that you're choosing. Oh, I've never come across the type of man. These men not out here. I ain't never. You are the problem. That's where you start. That's the problem. There's a church that we went to out here, and I told my husband, I'm like, man, you can really be in your own little bubble in different pieces of the country because there's so many different communities of people that are out here, but you have to seek and you have to look and find your tribe and your community and your people of what you want out of life, the type of life you want to live, and also where you're going, right? Tons of black families, husbands, wives, kids. I'm like, man, I hadn't even seen this in my hometown with young people, 30s, 40s, 20s, 30s, and 40s. Not a church full of 50 to 80-year-olds, but a church full of people that are young and they're seeking community of how they want and who they want their children to grow up around and be around and have to lean on for school, for knowledge, for God, for networking, for all things. So, like Sonia said, I don't believe nothing she just said. Um, it's not believable. But most women can say that they want the God fearing man, but then they also want the man that's in the section popping bottles with 10 women around them, and the first thing they walk in and say, "I want him." That's the man that they're going. That's the man that they're seeking. But
I believe
then
that.
they're saying, "I want the God fearing man." But when they get that man and he wants to go to church, but you want to go to the club or you want to go on vacay with the girls, y'all are not in alignment. You're gonna call that man lame. You're gonna call him boring, right? That's what most women today are saying. It doesn't line up.
And that's when a man leaves them. Can I say something?
That's for real. Go ahead. Go ahead. You got
um,
it, Ruth.
the fake pastor that I used to date had bad character. That's why it was over. But a good man that wasn't overly promising, overly religious, just doing his thing. That's why I said, like, don't sleep on these guys that they could potentially go to church. Like um they want to live that lifestyle. They just don't have a reason to. They want to raise men. Men know when you have kids, you gotta bring them to church. I've been told, thank you for bringing the kids to church, because they came out different, you know. So they know that their kids supposed to be raised up on them, so they have to be a good example. So maybe some men choose, when their kids start growing up, they want to go in, or when they get older. Some woman told me at the church that she was praying, and for 10 years her husband would stay home, and he finally came to church with her, and now he's like, oh, you being a deacon, I'm gonna go ahead and be up there with you and supporting her. So you just never know how it's going to work out. You don't have to change people, but I'm telling you, it's some good men. Like, it's about the character. That's why character was number one.
I grew up in the church, and one of the greatest men that I've ever known, he came from that same exact situation, that Ruth that you're speaking on. His wife, and he was much older than me. I think he passed when I might have been like 10 or something like that. But this man essentially gave his life to God during the time where his wife led him into the church. And he was running the streets before that. And he was so passionate of a man that he eventually became a preacher, and genuinely one of the sweetest, most awesome, passionate man that I've ever met in my entire life. And I'll never forget him to this day. But his wife was such an influence on him. And one day, same scenario. One day she had him come to church, and just like that, his life changed. So I think that we think that women discredit themselves and the power and the influence that they have over men, especially if they love them, and vice versa. If that man loves that woman, a man will do whatever it takes in order to keep that woman happy, and to make their life better. So I think that we shouldn't necessarily discredit and and tell women not to stay away from situations like that, because it can work out in their favor. I know Sweeney is, at least on this panel, is one of the guys that loves statistics and numbers and all that other shit. But sometimes all it takes is one. That, yeah, it may be 73% of men that's fuck ups, they don't go to church, whatever, but that 30-some percentage, you can be in that percentage. You know what I'm saying? If it's 10%, if it's 1%, there's a possibility of you being in that percentage, but you'll never know unless you take that chance. The other thing that I would want to say to this situation, I never heard of B. Simone before, so I can only go off of what it is that I see on the surface level. Even if she is some chick that's a car booty, she just in a club, whatever. The fact that she even had this conversation on the platform, I think is amazing. It's wonderful, because it draws in more women to God, to spirituality, to wanting to have that relationship, not only with Christ or whoever it is that they believe in, but to also have that desire to share that with the man that they are with. And in most cases, we know that those are really where those strong and long-lasting relationships are cultivated. So if we continue to have these conversations on these type of podcasts, I think that we can do a lot more help than what it is that we're doing when we discredit or tell or feed into that there's piss in the dating pool and all the other shit that people be saying.